The latest. Thank you for your love and support. I appreciate you. Or if you are new here, this is Aduba and you are welcome. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. We are told that people discovered the continent and they are hailed for their discovery. They are seen as genius. But how can you discover a place that people were already existing? We were doing our own trade. We are farming. We have everything. We have our own political system. Like we have everything before these people came in. So today, these wise have a message to their brothers and sisters who claim that Europeans were the people who discovered us. You can never discover something that is already in existence.
You cannot discover a place that already has people living there. To the guy who said Africa was discovered by Europeans, let me teach you something. You don't discover a place where millions of people already lived, traded, built kingdoms, and developed complex systems long before Europeans touched African soil. When Vasco da Gama arrived in 1497, he didn't find wilderness. He found cities. He found the Swahili coast, Kilwa, Mombasa, Mapungubwe, civilizations trading with India and China centuries earlier. Only thing Europe discovered was its own greed. You didn't discover Africa. You invaded it. You renamed it. You redrew the borders. You enslaved and colonized. That doesn't sound like discovery. It sounds like theft. Why do we still believe this lie? Because history is taught from the perspective of the thief, not the victim. And that is why your textbooks lie.
South Africa was empty when Europeans arrived. That is one of the biggest lies ever told about African history.
There were no Africans that were native. There was a few, but not really. It wasn't inhabited because it was too cold down there for them.
Mm-hmm.
And
South Africa.
Yeah. So when the white people went there, the British went there, they built something out of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And they had apartheid because they were getting attacked.
Let's break it down. Before a single European ship docked at the Cape, South Africa was home to millions of people. You had the San people, one of the oldest human populations on the entire planet. They have been living in southern Africa for tens of thousands of years. You had the Khoikhoi, skilled pastoralists with cattle, trade, and established communities across the Cape region. You had the powerful Bantu-speaking nations like the Zulu, the Xhosa, the Sotho, the Tswana, with kingdoms, governments, and economies that were thriving long before Europe even knew this land existed. Let's not forget, y'all thought y'all were going to India and ended up in Africa. So where did the empty land story come from? It was invented deliberately, a lie. Colonizers needed a legal and moral excuse to take land that wasn't theirs. They tell the same lie about Europeans settling in America, saying that there was virtually no one here when there were millions of natives here. If they admitted people already lived there, they'd have to admit that they were stealing it. So they called it empty. They called it terra nullius, nobody's land. The apartheid government later pushed a version of this myth even further, claiming black South Africans arrived at the same time as European settlers, which historians have completely debunked. This wasn't ignorance, it was a calculated lie to justify land theft, forced removal, and centuries of violence. And here's how they actually took the land. Firearms. Indigenous armies, no matter how skilled, faced muskets, rifles, and cannons. The Zulu Kingdom was one of the most powerful military forces in all of Africa. They defeated the British in 1879, but British firepower eventually overwhelmed them. Disease. When the Dutch arrived in the Cape in 1652, they brought smallpox. The 1713 epidemic alone wiped out the majority of the Khoikhoi communities. Entire peoples were destroyed, not just by bullets, but by biology. Then came the laws. The 1913 Natives Land Act legally restricted black South Africans, who were the majority, to just 7% of their own land. Guns, disease, legislation. That's how you erase a people and then claim their land was always yours. The empty land myth isn't just bad history. It's still being used today to oppose land reform in South Africa, to protect wealth built on stolen land. Knowing the truth matters because you can't understand where South Africa is going without understanding what was actually done to get there. And the fact that Europeans and white people continuously lie in all the settler colonies, we have to make sure we are telling the truth about the history. Want to learn more? Go look up the San people, the Khoikhoi, in the 1913 Land Act, because their stories deserve to be known. South Africa was never empty. America was never empty. Australia was never empty. Colombia, Brazil, these places were never empty. They were simply stolen with a combination of disease, violence, and a will of people who had no respect for anyone else's culture, anyone else's land, or anyone else's autonomy.
All right, so this is Lake Narubare here in Uganda. They say someone came from Europe in 1858 to discover this water in somebody's village here in Uganda. He discovered water that is already here in somebody's community here in Uganda, and named this water after former Queen of England, Victoria. That's what they call it now. So in school, children will be learning that somebody came from England called John Spee to discover water in their own community. It's high time Africans start writing their own history by themselves. You get to the point now. For me, The name of this lake is Narubare, not Lake Victoria. You get to the point now. This is Lake Narubare. Here is one of the largest tropical lake in the whole world and the largest in Africa. This lake has an island that moves. This is a very spiritual lake and historical lake. I don't know much history about it, but what I do know is that somebody came from Europe, just speak, to discover a lake in somebody's community, somebody's village here in Uganda. Imagine a foreigner, imagine me as a Nigerian coming to Uganda to discover somebody's water, a community water that community people have been fishing for years. And in school, people are writing in school. For you to pass a Ugandan history test, you have to write that somebody came from Uganda to discover this water and name it after former Queen of England, Lake Victoria. I don't know. We have so much to do as Africans. You get to the point now, it's hard time we start writing our own history by ourselves. Nobody will tell our story better than us. No one. Nobody will tell our story better than us. We have so much to learn. I don't know why in school, learned people, professors will be teaching students that somebody came from England to discover lake in somebody's village here in Uganda. That's what they are teaching students. And you claim you are a scholar, you are a professor teaching young children that somebody came and discovered water in somebody's village. We have to do better. You get to the point now. This is Lake Narubare, the largest tropical lake in the world and the largest here in Africa, border with 3 countries, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. This is a very spiritual lake. It has an island that moves. So you have to come here. Anything you do here, God will answer you. If you come here, pray, God will answer you. This is African magic. You get to the point now. This is African magic. So stop teaching your children that somebody came here to discover a lake in somebody's village. Stop that nonsense. You get to the point now. Peace and love.
And this notion has been taught to us wrongly, to the point that the Africans sit here and still believe that these people are genius. That is the reason to which they were able to come here to discover us. They don't discover something that is already in existence. Do you understand, Africans? So we need to wake up from this mentality and believe that everything that was written concerning slavery, concerning us, was to make sure that it glorified these people. That's why they said, if the lion doesn't write the story will always glorify the hunter. So for us to understand the reason to which these people are doing this is for you to feel inferior, to be brought down, so that the African will never see the value, the power, the strength. And that is the reason to which always they try to make sure that anything that has to do with the African being good is taken down. We always see how they portray the African to the world. We are not portrayed the right way because they don't ever want you to see the power that you have. So before you sit here thinking that people came into the continent and discovered you have to, at least after listening to this video, you need to change your mentality and believe in yourself, the African. Africa, you are the best. Africa is the best place. We have everything. Most of the things that they came for, they took them from here. And before they came, we were already doing our mining. They never taught us mining. They only came and took their skills away from us. And that is the reason to which, even though we have mineral resources, we are not being taught mining at school. Look at the majority of things we have here and compare the things we study at school to what we have here. Nothing. So at the end of the day, even the knowledge that our forefathers had concerning what we have here has been taken out. And before we can do anything with our own resources, we need these people to come into the continent to come and do them for us. And that is the motive. So they made you powerless. So at the end of the day, they come back and it looks like they are now rather the saviors of Africa. And we need to wash away that notion. Let us not buy into it. This is information age. And we need to change how we are programmed. We have been brainwashed to the point that we have lost trust in our own selves. We don't believe that we can do anything. And that is why when we see things, we say, wow, these people are knowledgeable. They are this, they are that. They are genius. We do not have such things. And that is why till date, Africans believe that these people are the best people. They have the best everything. And we are only there to be like consumers of what they have. And we need to wake up because we are the best. We are the only ones that can set ourselves free. United we stand, divided we fall. And united we keep standing forever and ever. The greatest enemy of the African is mental slavery. So let's decolonize ourselves from mental slavery. Let's keep sharing to educate our brothers and sisters. Together we'll make Africa great for ourselves and the next generations that are going to come. So that's the latest around the world. In Africa.